Hello, everyone. This is Vaughn Harris, and welcome back to Coaching Seasons Transformative Conversations. Today, we're going to have a very lively conversation with one of our own life coaches here. This is Mr. Eddie Pabon, and we're just going to have a little insights in what it really takes to be a life coach. Welcome, Eddie.
Hey, Vaughn. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Welcome aboard. Tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started.
Oh, where do I start? I'm like a rock star.
I'm
just joking. I'm just joking, man. I guess just in general, I have background in clinical counseling. Started out in the school of life for me. Really, my calling to want to help people and do what I do. Started with a really difficult childhood, which I talk about in my book. You can read more about that. I'm not going to get into deep. But The Sun Will Rise in December is a memoir that I wrote about that. And the school of life ultimately led me to becoming a peer educator, at which point I learned a lot about health and community and the different diverse populations and needs of the community. From there, I shifted into working for public allies in the community. Became a public ally for a year and became more passionate about helping people and understanding the needs of the community. Shifted into becoming a case manager for a nonprofit organization. I worked with diverse clinical teams to serve diverse populations across many age groups, in just ultimately creating sustainability and independence for individuals who struggled with various issues. I worked at Rikers Island for 4.5 years. Like I mentioned, I've written a book. And now I'm a life coach, amongst other things. I also happen to run a crypto game, an NFT game called Algo Leagues. And so I'm a pretty busy guy.
You really are. And that's what I think is so cool about you. You bring a lot of professional working experience into the life coaching space, between your work with, your clients at Rikers and all of these different places you've been, as you've listed before, and then your own life experience. Because I think that's what's the beauty about being a life coach. It takes life experience to help inform what we do. And that's what I think is cool about what you do and what you bring to the table. What inspired you to become a life coach?
Well, even from when I was a kid, I kind of always wanted to understand why people were the way they were. To try to help it started out with my mom, really. I wanted to try to help my mom, right? And so I started going to things like NA and AA meetings when I was 9 years old, 10 years old, not because I had a substance abuse problem, but because I wanted to understand my mother's substance abuse issues and find spaces to not only understand her, but ways to help her. And so it began there, but ultimately I've always, been inspired and had a passion for helping people realize their full potential and achieving their goals. I believe that everybody has the ability to succeed and make positive changes in their lives. And I always wanted to be a part of that process. So coaching for me became the obvious choice after doing all of the clinical counseling and things that I've done in the past.
That's true. So what was the first step in getting started for you?
Well, like I mentioned, first off, the first step was to believe in myself and my ability to do that, right? I think that a lot of us struggle with confidence in the area of moving forward with things that we believe might be too big for ourselves. And so first I had to work on me. I had to work on my stuff, right? And once I got past all of that, I decided to take the experience that I had and get in touch with Rafael Rios of Coaching Season, who's he's our guy.
All right, let's
and I banded up with him and took a course with Coaching Season to become certified, and here I am. I also sort of experimented with the coaching practice, if you will. I ran a trauma program, a workshop with a beautiful woman named Jalissa Edwards a few years back, and we had 4 successful participants. And for me, it was profound because that was like a make or break of if I should come into this world, if you will. And the success spoke volumes. So I'm sort of gearing up to launch a trauma program with Coaching Season eventually. And that's pretty much how I got into it. After doing all the clinical counseling and working with government and community and all levels, I think I have enough experience and have helped enough people to get people who are more motivated. I think there's a difference between the type of people that I work with now versus the type of folks I worked with before. People who are more driven, and people who have goals for themselves, but need a little bit more support and guidance.
Oh, I understand. And that's really the purpose of these transformative conversation episodes, just to show people what's possible. That's why I've tried to get several different types of guests between the author and the professional, fitness coach and all of that, and now a life coach. I think it's important to show people what's possible because nobody ever thinks, we don't come out of the womb thinking, oh, I'm going to be this and I'm going to be that. I'm going to try to do this. And, sometimes you need to show people what's possible. So I'm glad that you're here to express what it means to you, want to be a life coach, and why it's such a calling for you. And I can definitely see it as a calling for you for sure. What do you think are some of the most rewarding aspects of being a life coach?
I mean, I think for me, it's the progress that clients make, right? When my clients are achieving their goals, when they're trying new things and coming back and saying, "Oh my God, thank you so much! Like, issue resolved. I found my way." It's incredibly fulfilling to know that I played a part in their process, and helping people improve their lives is what I'm here to do. So, I think that's definitely the most rewarding aspect for me.
Is that how you define success?
I mean, I define it by the positive impact I have on my clients ultimately, right? Like, it's not just about helping them achieve specific goals, but also about helping them to develop skills and mindsets, coping strategies that can take them into evolving in other areas of their lives, right? Not just the goals that we talk about.
Right. And it's interesting when you talk about, coping skills and just the skills it takes just to kind of move forward and to get out of your own way to build the confidence that you talked about earlier. Because I think a lot of times people just lack confidence. There's that fear of being an imposter. When you actually have the ability to do it, I think everybody has particular abilities. You just got to hone in on them and focus in on them and
I like
coach
to think,
yourself and get it.
definitely, I agree with you on that. I think fear is a big boogie monster, right? False
Yeah.
evidence appearing real, and I always challenge anybody to look at the fear, examine it,
Yes.
take really, really understand it, and challenge the shit out of
Exactly.
it.
You have to push yourself. And
Yeah,
because Christian was my life coach, and there was a time when I was beginning doing motivational speaking and really doing a lot of work around disability inclusion, and I had never done it on such a big stage before. But he kind of helped me walk me through the process of getting out there and moderating this big conference that was a worldwide conference, and I was on the stage for the first time as a moderator, asking
yes,
other influencers, what it's like to be in your spaces. And it was a very powerful moment. And I touched so many lives with that, but I was so fearful of doing it at first. And I don't know if it was the fear of putting myself out there in that way, or just leading the conversation, or just being on the stage itself. You never really think about doing those kinds of things until you're asked to do it. But I've been so rewarded from that experience. And I thank Christian as my coach for helping me get there. So I understand the power of somebody giving you that push, and he even got me to be here and becoming a coach and saying that, well, this is something that you could do too. You have really good insights, and why not share those with other people? So that's why I'm here. So I totally.
absolutely. You're an amazing man. You have a wealth of knowledge to offer. I think we all have golden nuggets from life to
Yeah,
offer, right? And
absolutely.
and kudos to you for. I mean, part of this process for me is giving yourself credit.
Yeah,
You have to give yourself credit for the things that you've achieved. So oftentimes we tend to throw all of that into the past and look to the future and forget about the things we've achieved, right? So
right.
like most people wouldn't have gotten on stage. They would have made excuses. They would have, gotten sick that day, maybe
Right.
COVID. And so you showed up and look
Yeah,
at you now, right? On new
yeah,
ventures, taking new rides that maybe you wouldn't have taken before.
that's
And
true.
shout out to your coach for guiding you in that process, right? This is what coaching
Absolutely.
is all about.
I thank him all the time for helping guide me through the process. So let me ask you, what have been some of your biggest challenges you faced as being a coach?
I think for me, it's varying motivation. Sometimes people may come to us as coaches with goals that they're really not ready to go full on with, right? Or like perhaps they have limited thinking, belief patterns that are precluding them from moving forward. And they come to us like, help us, and we don't necessarily have all of the answers. I believe that the individuals that we work with have the answers within them. It's our job as coaches to sort of go and listen,
Right.
understand individuals, and help them to understand the blockages that they perhaps may have created for themselves
Right.
that are stopping them from achieving these goals, right? So I think the commitment levels can be a challenge, and also just as a coach, having to tailor your style to meet individuals where they are.
Right.
Oftentimes, we want to give advice to people, right? And we see the answer. There are times I'm talking to somebody for 5 minutes and I'm like, I heard all of the solutions and all of the problems in these 5 minutes, and
Hmm.
I can't just give that to the individual because it's not received. There's no value in it. It wasn't discovered by them, and it comes off as judgmental, imposing, right? And so you have to sort of tailor your style to listen and really meet people where they are and guide them accordingly. And that takes unique skill sets, and patience and time.
That's for sure. And I think a lot of times people forget we're not your actual shrink. We're not your psychologist. We can't help you in that way. We can suggest that you seek some additional help, but we're just trying to help you get through some of life's little pitfalls and things that may slow you down. And I know a lot of times I agree with you. Sometimes you can pick up on what the problem is and what the solution is right away, but you also have to guide people to it. You definitely guide them to it. You can't just throw it in their face and say, "Here you go. This is all you need to do." Because until they see it, it's never going to make a difference, and they're never going to.
Absolutely.
That's
The
that's
coaching
definitely
process is always client centered. It's always individual centered. It's not about me, it's about the individual. And they've got to see the light for themselves in some way, shape, or form. They also have to be open to being moldable. You have to have a growth mindset when you're working with a coach. Because if you come with a limited, fixed mindset, then you already defeated yourself before you even started. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. We got a question coming through. I have some questions too, but I want to answer this question from one of our listeners. The question is, what are some of the qualifications of becoming a life coach?
Ha ha ha. Well, you definitely want to have experience. Experience for me is more valuable than anything else, right? Because you can't, what you don't know, and you don't want to try to help people in areas that you have no idea and how to help yourself in, for example, right? So you want to have learned how to fish before you teach individuals to fish. Yes.
Right.
And so that's the first qualification, is having have the passion and understanding of said topic or focused coaching area before approaching becoming accredited. And you definitely want to take an accredited course to become a life coach so that you can become certified and be comfortable in practicing. I would also recommend receiving coaching
Yes.
because again, when and if you aren't experiencing what it's like to be on both sides of the spectrum, then you only have half the battle to offer, right? Or half the solutions. And so you must practice what you preach. That's a big
Absolutely.
deal.
Absolutely. And to your point, yes, the certification was really helpful. And it was several weeks of, learning different practices and understanding empathy and understanding, listening, and that's very important for you to listen to what your client is saying. But there are so many little tools and things that you learn about yourself as you're going through the certification process. And I think that's one that's very helpful. But to your point, just to have life experience itself and the knowledge that you've learned over the years can definitely help you. And I recommend it. And I tell people anybody could actually do this if you really just put the effort in. And we coach each other, and we learn from each other. I have coaches, and that help me to elevate myself and also to help other people. So I think that's very important to think about, when you're looking at doing this kind of work. What are some of the qualities that you think you have to possess to become a good coach?
I think you definitely have to have really good listening skills, right? You have to have excellent communication skills, and strong problem solving abilities. You have to have a deep understanding of human psychology and behavior, like why it is that people perhaps are doing, feeling, saying the things that they don't want to be doing, seeing, or feeling, right?
Right.
And you, most importantly, you have to have empathy. You can't, if you don't understand someone's position, you can't help them essentially. If you're judging someone, for example, you're too busy on that frequency to be receiving the information that they're giving you to find solutions to the issues that they're experiencing.
Right.
Right. So I think empathy is the number one skill that you should have, followed by excellent communication skills,
Right.
problem solving abilities, and a
Yeah.
deep understanding of human behavior.
Right.
Right.
And compassion. I'm gonna throw compassion in there because
Absolutely.
you have
Well,
to,
I think empathy and compassion are like
they go
joint
hand in hand.
twins, right at the hip. Like you can't be empathetic and not compassionate, because
Yeah,
if I'm feeling what you're feeling, then naturally I'm going to get those feelings, and so
that's
I can be compassionate about what it feels like.
yeah. um, how do you assess the needs of your clients?
Listening,
Mhm.
observation, right? I mean, everything from body language and eye movements to tone, right?
Right.
And I mean, I like to ask a lot of questions to gain deeper understanding of what it is that people are experiencing, a deeper understanding of what specifically folks are trying to achieve with their goals, and then really tailor the approach to helping them achieve those goals.
That makes sense because a lot of times, in those conversations, we get little pearls of information because it could start out one way. The question could be about one thing, and you learn something in their response that could lead you to some of their problems or some of their pitfalls or some of their real challenges, as it were. So I think it's very interesting to have those kinds of introductory conversations initially, just to kind of set the tone, and they also get a good feeling for who we are as coaches. You know what I mean? And understanding.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you're able to listen to people and connect with them, I come from old school, really hood backgrounds. If you read my book, you'll understand. So there's an
Yeah.
old saying that I think still comes with me to today, and it's real recognizes real, right? So like you can't fake energy. And when you meet with people, if you aren't genuine, if you aren't empathetic, they're gonna realize that. They're gonna feel that right away, right? And so as part of the answering that question earlier about what it takes to be a good coach, it's just having that real energy, being a real person with the people you meet with.
Right. 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 How do you help your clients, set goals?
Well, when we meet, I'd like to identify what those goals are and then help them to create a clear plan for success. Like I want to talk about what perceived obstacles
Hmm.
that have arisen for you. Sometimes what you see as an obstacle, I see as an opportunity, and perhaps if you just switch the angle and the perspective,
Right.
we can see how that blockage you've been experiencing is actually the opportunity you've been looking for, right? And I think once we've created the clear plan, it's just about ongoing support and guidance through the process, right? Following up on the specifics, the measurables, the attainables, the realistics, and our timeline that we set. So I like to work with people on SMART goals.
Right.
And so that's pretty much it. We identify it, we set tangible, realistic, attainable goals that are measurable, and then we follow up on them while setting new goals, updating accordingly in our subsequent sessions.
Well, you answered my question about what strategies you do to help them achieve, overcome obstacles. You just answered that, so I'm not even going to have to ask you that again. You know, how do you measure their process or their progress?
So I mean, changes in behavior, right? Changes in mindset, overall well-being, tracking progress. If we said we were going to, journal this week and meditate, perhaps, twice this week, and you say you did it, right? You journaled and you did it. Well, guess what? Good job. You did it, right? So definitely a success, but also like that you can't fake that. So like if you're meditating naturally, you're gonna have. I always recommend meditation for everyone, by the way. But when you're naturally gonna have these subsequent observations about yourself, realizations, these aha moments that are gonna bring you to the space you want to be in. So definitely checking in with them, at the change in the behavior, the change in the mindset, and then asking straight out: Are you seeing the results that you wanted to see? Right? Are you making progress towards your goals, meeting them where they are?
And in your experience, have you had clients who just didn't want to put forth the effort?
Oh, so much. I, you know, I may be a little harsh. I'm a very, very gentle guy, and I'm very empathetic.
Right.
But when it comes down to my time,
Yeah.
right, I'm very big on the value of it and that it is a finite amount of time. And when I meet with my clients, there's only but so many excuses, but so much delay
Yeah.
and but so much bullshitting.
Yes,
Sorry,
absolutely.
Raphael. Sorry, coaching season. I love you guys. You can only bullshit, but for so much
Yeah.
before I'm going to call a spade and terminate the relationship.
Hmm.
I'm not here to babysit you. I'm here to guide you and support you. Right. And so, and you know, some coaches would take advantage of that and meet with you endlessly and just keep collecting your fee, right? Whatever that is. Now,
Right.
I don't care for the fee. I could be making money elsewhere. My thing is, are we making progress in this time with each other? If not, we should revisit the goals, we'll revisit everything. And then ultimately we have to revisit this relationship,
Right.
because when you step into coaching, you are agreeing that you are ready to challenge yourself and that you're ready to take steps towards achieving your goals. And if you're BSing the whole time, then really, what are we doing?
Right.
You know
Right.
what I mean?
No, you're absolutely right. I think so many times people think that they're giving us the answers we want to hear. But the thing is, it's not about your answers, it's about your outcomes and the things that you're trying to achieve in your life. Because we do notice when you've made some strides, you know what I mean? And it's
Oh,
not
I've
just,
had folks just tell me straight out, like, did you do the exercises that we agreed you were going to do?
yeah, yeah,
No. How do you feel? Like crap.
right.
Well, you going
Yeah.
to try them this week? Yeah. Next week? Yeah. Next week? Yeah. Fourth week, we're terminating. When you're ready to actually do this, you get in touch with me. But I can't keep, you got more excuses than yeah.
Because it comes back to accountability, right?
Absolutely, which is what we're here for as coaches, you know, to keep you accountable. But
Yep.
we're not here to like, you better, you know, it's more like, all right, well, what happened? Okay, that's understand. I'm very understandable, very understanding. You got sick, cool. Someone else got sick, okay. Life came up, cool. But you were just sleeping and you just didn't feel like it. All right, cool. So that sounds a little bit like depression to me, which we can explore, but I am not your therapist. I
Right.
am here to support motivated individuals. And if you're consistently unmotivated, and that sounds like something that's a little bit more of a mental health challenge,
Uh-huh.
than it is a coaching season
Right. Absolutely.
challenge.
Absolutely. Speaking about motivation, what motivates you? You have a lot of energy. I know you're all about gratitude and meditation and all these things. Let's talk about that a little bit.
I think my beginnings, you know, I'm working on this now. This is interesting. This is a personal journey thing, but
All
I'm
right.
big on positive motivation. My original motivation for everything I've ever done stems from trauma, right? Which we'll talk about in my trauma course that I have coming up. But ultimately, there's fear-based motivation, right? And there's love-based motivation. And a lot of the success that I've had in a weird paradoxical way has been fear-based
Hmm.
because a
Right.
deep part of me has always worried about becoming that poor little boy again who didn't have anything to eat, right?
Hmm.
And so while folks who have parents or folks who have support systems, Eddie Pabon never had any support systems. You know, I've always been my own support system. So my own personal growth and development keeps me motivated. My brothers and sisters keep me motivated. Shout out to them. I'm the oldest of a sibling family, and I've always wanted to represent to them what we could be despite where we come from. Right?
Right.
No support, no any base that anybody
Yeah.
should have for life. Um, but also it motivates me to see the smile on people's face when they have that aha moment, and it's because of something that we spoke about, because we spent time with each other and I was able to give them a golden nugget. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I think my own personal growth and development keeps me motivated. Meditation is the drug of choice. Use it, overdose on meditation. That's the only one you can. Every time I'm in a rut, you know, not just when I'm in a rut, it's a basic practice for me, but at any point that I'm experiencing any kind of blockage, I step back, I take my meditative walks. I'll meditate, you know, actual breath work,
Hmm.
do mantras and affirmations. But I keep myself motivated because I've always been my own support, right?
Right.
And so, yeah, it's a variety of tools, but I have to attribute most of my success to Empathy, mindfulness, and patience.
How many siblings do you have?
I'm the oldest of seven,
Wow,
from my mom, and then my dad has another six. So it's like 13 of us.
a lot of kids.
Oh, I'm the oldest. No pressure.
Right, right. Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about gratitude, because I know I've watched some of your shows, because you have some very powerful guests on your shows, and I've watched them, and oftentimes you talk about gratitude,
Hmm.
and I can see it coming off of you. You're really genuine about how you feel about things and what things mean to you, and you have a way of expressing that. But I hear you often talking about gratitude. Let's talk about that a little bit. What does that mean for you?
Oof. Gratitude is grounding.
Mhm.
I think we get caught up in the human experience so much that we forget to be grateful. But also, most importantly, everything is frequency, right? And so, if you're angry and you're not being grateful, if you're grateful then you're not being angry, they are opposite. They're opposite frequencies. You can't be grateful and angry at the same time.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right.
And so I think taking note of, like, you know, the breath work of when you get angry, count to 10 and then backwards and all that stuff. For me, it starts to use affirmations, start to speak positivity to yourself, bring yourself back, and become grateful for the things where you are. You know, we get caught up in the future, we get caught up in all of the must-haves and the supposed needs, but in
Mhm.
all actuality, we're all pretty spoiled by comparison to other people in parts of the world.
Yeah,
And we have food, electricity, you know, shelter, most of us anyway, that are blessed, right? And so I sort of take note of these things that I have now that I didn't grow up with, that I was fearful I was going to have a lifetime in lacking of, right? And
right.
so I'm grateful for the roof over my head. I'm grateful for having internet and the ability to be on this transformative conversation with you, right? I'm grateful for you for inviting me to this space. And
Mhm.
so that will always supersede fear, supersede frustration, anger, blockage, and it'll bring you back to a place of humility. I think humility is the first step in removing ego and helping you to create clarity into making healthy and informed decisions that are beneficial to you and the people that you love.
That's powerful. Do you write them down? Do you write down what you're grateful for?
I used to be honest with you, I have notebooks of affirmations and notes, and I stopped. I do once in a blue write down affirmations because I am planning on releasing in the future with coaching season a meditative mindfulness course that includes affirmations and all the things. So
Right.
I've been collecting a trove of affirmations for years now. But I do write them down just to free flow. At
Hmm.
times it's therapeutic for me. Journaling is very therapeutic. So, you know, I don't get to journal all the time. Otherwise, I'm very emotional. I'm a Cancer, guys. I don't know anything about astrology, but I know that Cancers are super emotional. It seems to be like what everybody tells me, and I am a living testament to it. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have a lot of feelings and I process them in my journal,
And
and in meditations and things. And so yeah, I do keep a list of gratitudes, but I also, it's not hard to be grateful. You know, you just need to look around. I have my
right.
dog next to me. I've got my partner in the other room. I've got furniture. I'm not sleeping on a floor. Like, there's so many things that I've experienced in childhood and in life
Yeah,
that make me grateful for where I am now. And it's in contrast, you know. And I
yeah.
promise you, if anybody's watching this and you're going through any of the things that I mentioned, or maybe even worse, you have the power to transform your life, you know. And getting a coach, or making the investment in yourself to take a step towards progress is the first step in progress, and
Yeah.
it's enough for you to arrive into the next phase of your evolution, right? And so
Absolutely.
don't hold back, man. Step into your light, step into your power. I believe everybody has the ability to do anything they want in this life. We've just been taught that you need to fit into these boxes in order to do that. And those belief systems are limiting us from becoming the true light and potential that we all have.
Yes, yes, yes. And it's talking about shining your light, and people that are listening are chiming in. They love the idea of meditation and journaling, and they understand that real recognizes real. So they're getting your points, and I think that's a blessing that it shows, because I do it myself. I do some meditation, and I used to. There was one point in my life when I was really stressed at work, and I really was the job was really making me crazy. And I would just, each day, I would just take 10, 15 minutes during my lunchtime. And because that was a nice break in the day. And I would just meditate for that 20 minutes. I did a
Mm.
guided meditation, and it really would center me and focus me and calm me down and calm my nerves and my anxiety around the hatred that I had for the job at the time,
Mm.
to the point where I could get through the rest of the day. Because there were some days when, and I would do it in the morning. I would listen to three different songs every single morning, and they would always uplift me. They would always inspire me. They would always make me happy. They would put a smile on my face. And little did I know, I used that as the tool to get me to that place that I dreaded going. And then once I got there and got through the day, I was able to do the meditation, and I could come out of that at the end of lunch and be like so refreshed and so energized and so ready to take the day. And that really helped me. I too used to journal, and a few of my previous guests on this show have talked about journaling. So, I'm gonna pick up my journal again because I bought a new one. So it's time to start writing in it, and I'm gonna make that happen. And I have a friend at work, and he's listening tonight. We talked about meditation a lot because he's really into it too. So thank you, Chauncey. I really appreciate you for that, and because I know how important it is for you, and I know what it does for me. So, what advice would you give someone who's interested in becoming a coach?
I'd say, seek out a comprehensive coaching program. Get in touch with coaching season.
Yes.
Yes. And gain as much experience as you possibly can in working with clients. Don't let imposter syndrome hold you back from doing something that could potentially impact your life for the better and impact the lives of others, right?
Mm-hmm.
Vaughn, you mentioned something that was important, and I was once in that place where I worked in a toxic environment. I hated my job. I was actually serving in fine dining back in the day. It was this weird transition between right before I wrote my book and after I'd come out of clinical counseling. I was in this weird place where I decided to do fine dining serving, which was weird. It was good money though, so I was like, you know what? I'm making as much as I was as a case manager and even more. Let me do this for a little while. But oh man, was that so toxic! And I meditated on my breaks just like you did, and it wasn't until like right before I wrote actually after my book that I gave them the finger and left. But it was coming. One of the managers coming into the break room and seeing me meditating, waking me up out of the meditation to tell me that wasn't allowed in their space. That for me was like, you know what? This is a toxic work environment. I don't need to be here. I don't want to be here. I hate coming to this place every day. And I started to look at myself like, what's wrong with you? Do you like being abused? Why are you still coming here? Like,
Right.
so ultimately, if you're working anywhere, and I have people constantly ask me, like, I hate where I work. What do I do? And I tell them straight up, go find something you love to do and find ways to make money off of that. There's so many things that you could do. Get in touch with coaching season. Find a coach who can help you to guide you into finding the things that make you happy and make a plan into transitioning. I'm not saying quit your job, right? I have to pay my rent. That's understandable, but make a transition plan, right? Don't just stay there. Apply to things. I always tell people, apply to things you don't think you can get. What's the worst case? What's the worst case scenario? You stay stuck at the job you hate. You already have the job, right?
And all they can do is tell you no. They're not gonna.
They tell you no. Oh well, you got to go to work anyway. Either
but
way,
guess what?
right?
They could also tell you yes. You're hired. And then what? Your whole world is gonna open up.
A whole new world.
Exactly. And and just let's talk about that a little bit. So many people are dealing with, job separations and problems at work and stress in managing that, and a lot of changes that are happening in the workplace now because we're moving away from the pandemic, and a lot of things are changing in people's workspaces. And I know we just recently had a session on on surviving work, at coaching season. But what advice would you give somebody other than start looking for a new job? What else would you tell them to do just to get their minds right?
Where would you, in the perfect scenario, what's your end goal? In a perfect scenario, where would you be? What is your value system, right? Like, what is it that you're seeking to do in this world? If you could do, and let's take away the limitations, let's take away the specifics. If you could do anything in this world, don't just tell me be rich.
Yeah.
If you could do anything in this world that would make you happy every single day, what would that look like? Right. And you know, what I find is that oftentimes we're creatures by nature. We want to help other people, right? We all in one way or another enjoy being available to other human beings and receiving feedback. It's natural for us as human beings to give and receive feedback. We require it, but we thrive the most when we're helping other people, when we feel like we've impacted the lives of other people. So I say, if you could impact your own life and the lives of others, what would that look like? Oftentimes people don't have an answer. That's okay, right? But the
Hmm.
beauty of life is that every day offers the opportunity for you to evolve into something that you didn't think you could be, right? And so
Absolutely.
if you keep asking the question, at some point spirit's going to respond to the call. I'm very spiritual, I'm very big on energy, and I believe that we have divine guidance within us, but we never really practice going within for the answers. We're always seeking external. So I would invite people first and foremost to ask themselves deeply what makes them happy. Write those things down, right? Also, things, what have you not tried in life that you thought you would try when you were a kid, but when you became an adult, you thought, I said, it's too stupid for me to try. You know, and for some people that's singing, for some people that's art, for some people that's dancing, programming, whatever, right? But if you put it away and that made you happy when you were a kid, perhaps we should explore that, because the limitations of the past are no longer here. We have the internet, right? You could TikTok your way into success if you wanted to nowadays, right?
Yeah.
And everybody has a niche for something, and you fit in somewhere. If not, you could be the creator of a new hashtag, right?
Yeah.
But we live in a world of opportunity. You have to ask yourself what sparks you, right? And maybe having a coach and engaging in these discussions is the reflections that come with coaching, right? Because a big part of what I do with people is not only holding them accountable but and setting goals, but asking for them to reflect on certain things that we discuss and giving reflective journal prompts that if you really really dig into them, they have you question a lot of things about your beliefs, about a lot of things that you believe is the script that's concrete, when it's really just clay blockage, right? You just water it down, get it out the way, and oh, so much light on the other side of everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely. I'd say ask yourself the deep questions. Take a step back. Oftentimes, when we're in crisis mode, this is another thing. You know, we don't think right. We got fight or flight going, or freezing, right? We're in this trauma state, and we're not. Our blood is flowing, and we're trying to figure out the solutions to the problems, and we miss some of the simplest things at times that could make the difference or make the shift, right? And this is a part of where having a coach comes in, where you're listening to folks, and it's just the simplest. You know, have you tried setting this boundary for yourself? No, I haven't. Can we try this? Would you be open to trying this? Yes, I will. And they
Mhm.
stick to it. And then all of a sudden, you know, I thought this person was going to react this way. And they actually respect me so much more now, or they actually respect the boundary, and I'm not affected the way I thought I would be. I'm actually happier now. You know, so
Right.
there's this progress that happens with the dialogue. Start the
Mhm.
dialogue with yourself, and if you keep hitting blockage, absolutely get a coach. You know, and a good coach is going to ask you the right questions and help you ask yourself the right questions so that you can dig out those answers that lie within.
Right. And you can experiment with anything from visualization to meditation to what's the other one? There's another one that I like to use. Just when you put yourself in the place, because in order to manifest, you got to see it and believe it and know that it can happen. And believe that it can happen. And I think that's what makes it so powerful. And
It is important, yes.
I'm
If you
so
believe you
glad that you
can,
shared that.
if you believe you can, or you believe you cannot, you're right.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And this is it's important. Now, I want to emphasize. I want to go a little deeper, because some people are going to be like, "Well, I don't think I can, so I'm right." No,
Dude,
that's
jump
not what
in.
I'm trying to tell you here.
Yeah.
What you believe for yourself is your truth. It is your reality. It is your projection onto this big canvas called life,
Yep.
right? So
Absolutely.
choose to believe that you can, learn from any mistakes or bumps in the road, and adjust yourself accordingly.
Right. And that's why I tell the people all the time, I believe anything is possible. There is nothing that I don't believe I can achieve. I might have to work at it a little bit harder than some other folks might have to do, but I do believe you can do anything you set your mind to. You just got to focus on it and study and do your research and plan and not just jump, but plan and make this thing happen for yourself the right way it's supposed to be. And it will happen. So let me ask you something, and you bring up a good point about that. So what did you learn from one of your biggest failures? Because everybody has a failure. It's not the end of the world, but everybody has one. What was the biggest lesson you learned?
You know, I don't think there's any. I wouldn't call things failures. Okay. So maybe once upon a time I would have thought that I was a failure, and that was because I wasn't rich by 25. I didn't have a house, a dog, a marriage, 2 kids, the boy, the girl, the perfect American dream standard that we all told we were going to have by the time we were 30.
Right.
But I think all perceived failures for me were just really lessons learned. I think I've learned from, for example, Let's Share We Are. Love, empathy, community, healing, and empowerment. It was a mindfulness initiative that I wanted to start during the pandemic. So I created all this merch and this website and all these things, and it was really available to the process. I thought, mindfulness was the new it, right? And the world responded very differently to what I thought I was doing correctly. So, I did some panels. I spoke about mindfulness, and I had people give me like, take your mindfulness and go elsewhere with that. We have real world problems to deal with, and
right.
So it was disheartening. And so in that area, I thought I was failing, but in all actuality, it was, failure is redirection. It's a learning opportunity. It's an opportunity for you. It's not final. Nothing in life is final except death, right? And so I think when you look at perceived failures, you must look at the reality that it's not final, that you can learn something from this, and that all it is that you need to really adjust your perspective, your approach, whatever it was that caused the failure, and just get back up and keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I wanted to release my book many years before I did in 2018, and in my mind I was a failure because I didn't do it. And then I released the book, and in my mind I was a failure because it didn't become a top seller, right? But then time and energy comes.
Yep.
And you learn that I wasn't a bestseller because I didn't exactly have the best marketing plan. And right. And I was new on the block, and I didn't know about the tools available to authors. And I don't have very many people in my circle who have written books, right? And so I didn't have support in that area. But once I sought out support, and once I started to meet other people in those areas, I started to see that really I was a success by comparison to somebody else who self-published. I've sold a few thousand copies of my book and made impact in people's lives. And to this day, I still receive affirmation that it wasn't a failure, that it was actually a success. I have, I'm a gay man. So, and I've had straight men tell me years later, I hesitated on reading your book, and a couple of them have actually reached out and said, I thought this was going to be a gay book or whatever, but I actually read it, and dude, man, you helped me with so many issues that I face as a man, or so many issues that I was dealing with my parents, right? That have that opened me up, and your book is like the best shit that's ever happened to me, so it's like cool, that. So to answer your question in a short and sweet, I've reframed what I see failure as. It means it means there's some unaccounted for variable that I didn't take into account. And it could mean in perpetual balance that maybe this is not for me, right? Sometimes we're chasing things that aren't for us. And we believe that is the all true final thing. And then we get disappointed when it doesn't come to be.
Yep.
Give you
It's
an
the end
example.
of the world.
Relationship wise, right?
Mm-hmm.
You ever had a crush on someone and was like, you try to do everything to get into their goods, and you just want to be that person for them. It doesn't work. But then years later, you become friends, and you find out that that person is abusive in their relationships, right? And you experience them in their relationships with these new people, and you have these aha moments where it's like, oof, I dodged a bullet on that one, right? So recognizing that failure is not final. It is redirection, or an opportunity for you to restructure, reapproach, regroup and look at some new options to explore.
Absolutely. And sometimes, if something didn't work the first time, it was because it wasn't the right time for it to happen for
That's
you.
true too.
Everything happens in its time. And
Yes.
sometimes it's just not the right time. And you also need to know you learned a valuable lesson. You needed a team, you needed a
Mm,
plan, and you
mm.
needed the fortitude to keep pushing past it and think and not thinking that, okay, just because I didn't sell a million copies the first week, that doesn't mean it's a failure. It just means not enough people saw it or had access to it at that time. But you got great feedback and acknowledgement from the work that you put forward, just from people that you heard from, and that meant more to you than $1 million.
Oof.
In reality.
5-star reviews across the board is my hair still stand on that. Over 100 people later, it's like, wow, okay. I'm just a Puerto Rican dude, from the Bronx. Like these are
Right.
old, perceived, limited thinking voices that come up in the mind, and you're like, no, I'm not. I have so much light and so much experience to offer, and cool. Thanks, universe. Humility first.
Yep.
So, but also the magic happens where, like you said, maybe not now, but later. And I have
Hmm.
so many opportunities that have arisen, and people reaching out. They want me to be on their shows, and they want me to do different things. Speak for government, for example, Human Rights Commission to educate folks on how to better approach children who are in custody from being taken from their parents.
Right.
Beautiful opportunities to engage in being a part of the solution.
Yeah, and look, your life has touched so many other lives, and you've become a blessing for so many other people, and that's the beauty of what you do and why you do it, and that's part of the calling, and that's what really brought you to life coaching for sure. What are some of the other things you have planned for yourself in your coaching?
Well, I'm really excited for these workshops that I've been working on with coaching season around trauma.
Hmm.
I'm excited to work on everything from mindfulness workshops to continue to do speaks, hopefully events in the future, right? I also work on a separate project called the Algo Leagues, and it's a NFT game. I'm going to be at NFT NYC, which is completely like opposite. So this is so otherworldly.
Yes.
But yeah, so I'm just really like excited to see how I can continue to bridge the gap between worlds like gaming and coaching, right? And like things
Yeah.
like being just who you are and living your life, but also having opportunities to engage in self-improvement, awareness, education, and progression.
That's a
Uh,
very interesting idea. I'm working with a team that we're looking at bringing disabled characters into gaming. And
yes.
so, and what I was telling the team is that, and there are a bunch of developers and whatnot, and I was like, it's one thing to have the character there, but the landscape of the game has to be accessible. It's not just about, oh, that character has a cool wheelchair, or they're using some cool devices for their crutches, or whatever device they're using for mobility or whatever,
Mhm.
or they have superpower with their blindness or their deafness or whatever it is. But you also have to make the space accessible, you know
Absolutely.
and when I told them that, I was like, that it just blew their minds. So gaming is a space that I think is opening up for us, and for us as people of color, you don't see many of us in those spaces making change. We might play these games, but we're not making the money. And so the time has come for us to start opening those doors and pushing the doors in if we have to make that kind of change. So I'm glad that you're doing that kind of work. I'm curious about the trauma conversation.
Let's do
What
it.
is it about trauma you want to delve into with your clients? How does that work?
So the effects of trauma. What is trauma, right? How do we how what first and foremost, what happened to each individual that
Hmm.
comes to these courses, right? I believe that when you do something like this, it's a very deep, serious issue to touch. So you
Right.
have to be not only knowledgeable and experienced, but you have to be extremely empathetic and detailed in how you listen to people, process and assist, support and guide individuals in touching these traumatic points, right? But
Right.
what is trauma? How we're affected by trauma, biopsychosocially, right?
Hmm.
Because we are biopsychosocial beings, meaning we have our DNA, right? That dictates who we are and how we feel about things. Social, psycho, how we think about things is structured partially by society, partially by our families of origin, our DNA, things like that, the social groups we keep in. And most importantly, coping skills, right? Ways to restructure how we experience what trauma is and how we react to things. Everything from triggers and family systems to, mindfulness practices, mantras, affirmations, journaling, and guidance throughout the process to sort of examine what traumas we went through, how it's keeping us stuck, how to get unstuck, and how to build resilience and coping skills to address any future traumatic experiences that
Mhm.
are in the mix.
So that you don't fall back down the rabbit hole when
Right,
you
because
pull.
one of the things we talk about in the course is stages of change, right? And everybody has there are 6 stages of change, and when you commit to behaviors like drugs, for example, right? You have pre-contemplation, you don't know that you don't know, and so you're just sort of aimlessly falling into this rabbit hole of the same issue repeatedly.
Right,
You wouldn't be in this course though, because pre-contemplation wouldn't allow you to sign up for a trauma program because you don't know that you don't know, right? And then you have
right,
contemplation where you semi-aware, you're becoming aware. Maybe I do have an issue here, but I'm not really ready to touch on that. You just sort of leave it alone, And you have preparation where you start researching the issue, researching the trauma, researching things like coaching seasons, trauma program,
right.
because you're starting to see
Yeah,
it's starting to happen.
right,
And then you have action or preparation, and you have action, which is where you're like, you know what, I'm jumping in, I'm going to call coaching season, I'm going to get therapy, I'm going to do the course, I'm going to do all the things to rid myself of this thing that's causing continued repetitious emotional instability, insecurities, anxieties, depression, social and interpersonal issues, right, employment issues, etc., etc., etc.
hmm,
And then hopefully, once you've got the tools and you're implementing them and utilizing them, then you will continue into after 6 months where you go from action into maintenance. And that means that you have maintained, you're no longer engaging in any of the behaviors. Uh, and then the last one is a part of the whole cycle. The sixth one is relapse, which is a part of the
oh,
stages of change, right? You might fall into that behavior. You might go and sleep with your ex when you wasn't supposed to, right?
right,
Uh, but hopefully you never jump back into pre-contemplation, because once you know, hopefully you can jump right back into action and maintenance. If not, the cycle continues basically. But it's through the awareness and the cycle education, I think, is the first step.
right.
Sometimes we're just going through things aimlessly and we're not really understanding why. So the understanding of the why, exploring the who's and the what's and all of the things that have
Right.
composed you into you,
Hmm.
and then picking that apart and making plans and participating in activities specifically designed to helping you rewire those parts of your brain so that when you're triggered in future events, because it will happen, the triggering is not devastating. It's not so impactful that it halts progression in your life or creates new devastation and new traumas in your life, right? Trauma is a funny way of resurfacing,
Yeah,
and it's a funny way of altering us as humans.
they
and
do.
and it's actually detrimental to our health. Stress kills, and so this program for me is really crucial because it is the baby, the culmination of everything that I've experienced and all of my knowledge into an 8-week course. And the idea is you will come out knowing, at very least. What you choose to do with the information is up to you.
All right. I like that idea. I'm gonna take the course too. I'm gonna jump
Okay.
into the course too. So sign me up. Sign me up. I think it's good. It's good learning. And if anybody else is interested in the course, just go to coachingseason.com and sign up and connect with us. And if you're looking
Yeah,
for a coach,
we'll be announcing all of the details really soon. We're just
just
working on
get
the variables.
exactly get with it. So now I have a little bit of time left. And I have one more question for you.
Go
Are you
ahead.
ready? Are you
Let's
ready?
do it. Always, when you stay ready, you don't have to get ready.
That's right. So my last question for you, Eddie, and once again I have to thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you.
If you had to do it all over again, would you?
Hmm. I think I think I would. It's weird and almost sadistic to say so. But I think I would, because it's because of the things that I've experienced that have led me. I know it sounds cliche and like the, like the typical like roundabout answer, but for me, it really does hit that like had I not experienced the things that I've experienced, I wouldn't be in the unique position that I'm in today to be able to be available to those I love and to those who seek me for being available to them. Right. I think, I mean, I don't judge people. I happen to have a good sense of where people are based on their beliefs, their attitudes, right, their own progression, and the things that they self-profess.
Right.
And what I found is that the repeated levels of trauma that I've experienced would break most people, would wind up with individuals incarcerated, dead, in a corner somewhere, right,
Yep.
on drugs. And for me, what it did was empower me into education, self-awareness, and into growth and empowering others. And so I wouldn't trade me for the world. I love who I am. I love who I've become. I'm not egotistical. I don't think my shit doesn't stink, right? I have areas of improvement like anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the deep insights, wisdom, knowledge that have come with all the trauma and the experiences that make me go, fuck yeah, sign me up for the next round. And I
Right.
know Ralph is going to kill me because I keep cursing on this live. I love y'all. I'm
It's
not going to do
okay.
this anymore. Vaughn, you're getting me in trouble.
Hey, man, I'm trying my best not to curse. So you did
LinkedIn,
that.
don't cancel us.
You did that. But it's okay. And you know what? You're giving real talk, and sometimes people need to hear that. And I feel like that's what this is all about. And I feel like there are a lot of other people out here with the same skill sets that we share that can help other people. So if this is something that you think you want to do, really dig into what it takes to become a life coach. Reach out and find the program that works for you. You know, reach out to a life coach and start there. Get some coaching. Eddie and I are both available, and there are other coaches at Coaching Season. We're glad to help you at any time. Connect with Coaching Season. Book that free discovery call because you get that free 30-minute assessment, and that's just the beginning. That's the one step, just to kind of see those things that you might need or want to do. So, reach out to us and let us know what we can do to help you because I think it's important to have these kind of conversations. And I'm so glad that coaching is something that more people of color are doing because we need to go into our communities and our neighborhoods and share what we've learned and how we can help other people so that you don't have to always fall back on all those demons and things that can be a detriment to you when you could actually just find the enlightenment, look for that light that you need, because there are so many times that many of us don't think of what's possible and don't even know that it is an option. And I tell people all the time, don't be afraid to do it. And just because, oh, you're black, so we're not supposed to be able to do this, or you're
Fixed
Spanish, you
mindset.
can't do this.
Fixed
What,
mindset. I love you so much. I'm not judging you, but when I hear stuff like that come out of people's mouth, I just call it. It's a fixed mindset. Re-challenge that
exactly,
statement. Go back to it. Come back to
exactly,
me when you're done.
exactly. And stop thinking that way. Don't put those limits on you because we live in a whole big world now. We can do anything we want to do. And so why not tap into those things? Why not tap into those things that make you great? If you want to be a gamer, do it. If you want to be a fitness coach, do it. If you want to be a life coach, do it. Don't wait, because what are you waiting for? Time, eventually we're all going to leave this plane and go to another one. So if you're not ready to make some stuff happen on this one, I don't know what to tell you, but I know one thing: you have to make a stride. You have to just make the effort to push yourself to that next step. And I think it's important. And once again, Eddie, thank you so much. And tell the audience where they can find your book.
You can get it on Amazon.com. The Sun Will Rise in December. SON. The SON will rise in December. And thank you so much, Vaughn, for having me, Coaching Season, for having me as a coach and inviting me into this space. If you're watching this, I want you to know that you are limitless, light, love, and potentiality, no matter what your challenge is. So go for the gold, warriors. Shine that light and blind the world with it. All right. So get in touch with us if you need us. Thank you so much for having me. Peace and namaste.
Thank you. And I'm going to get that book.